Welcome to Crossroads Church. Whether you're connecting online, in person, or on demand, thank you for making this time part of your week. If you are new to Crossroads, you might be asking yourself, what is this place all about? Well, it's pretty simple. Peace on earth. We are an open and affirming community of people committed to following the peacemaking path of Jesus. And this peacemaking path leads us to focus our work on rewriting what we call the 5 unacceptable truths. These unacceptable truths are 5 realities that hinder human flourishing and destroy peace on earth. Together, we work to replace spiritual emptiness with spiritual vitality, poverty with physical and financial flourishing, fear of the other with inclusion and affirmation, illiteracy with education and opportunity, and modern-day slavery with freedom. This is what we mean when we say, hope is here. Over the next hour, we will experience the divine mystery together as we sing a few songs, listen for wisdom, and share in communion so that we might leave here inspired and equipped to follow the peacemaking path of Jesus in our everyday normal lives. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God.
Well, good morning and welcome to Crossroads. We are so glad you are joining us, whether it's here in the building or online. Hi, Mum and Dad. If you are able, we would love for you to stand and sing with us. Come gather round the mystery of love in our broken history, where grace seals the fault lines in me time and time again. It welcomes me in to our house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all souls come together, shoulder to shoulder. A welcome for the traveler, new wine for the vineyard. In all things, God is able. Love has appeared the table. Joy, who is my neighbor? Christ is in the beggar. Love doesn't need a stranger. Love calls them friend, welcomes them in to a house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all souls come together, shoulder to shoulder. A welcome for the traveler,
You guys can take a seat. Welcome to Crossroads. My name is Brooke. I volunteer every now and again, and they are sometimes brave enough to give me the microphone. You can talk to Ryan about that later. But I do have a couple things for you as we get started this morning. As you came in today, you should have received a program. So if you did not get one, if you snuck by, please raise your hand. One of the room hosts will be happy. Got some here for you to give you one. And if you are new here today, I know I chatted with a few people who are visiting new here today. We're welcome. We're glad you're here. That program is specifically designed for you with all the information that you might need or find helpful. Inside that program, there are a few things that I love to point out. So everyone, grab the program. Inside of it, first off, is our Connect card. That Connect card, everybody fills out every week. If you are a regular member or a regular attender, you can just put your name, email address, check the box, regular attender. But if you're new here, please check that box, new here. Fill out as much information as you feel comfortable sharing. And if this is your first time connecting with us this morning, we do have a gift for you. It is a book called The God We Never Knew. And it's especially helpful if you are deconstructing maybe ways of thinking about God that were handed to you that no longer make sense or have maybe even caused you harm. So if you are new here, please, on your way out today, grab one of those books. They'll be on the back tables for you. Now, I don't know about you all, but the holidays feel like they are here. I confess, I put my Christmas lights up already. Anybody else? Christmas lights? Anybody have Christmas trees up already? Oh man, you guys are overachievers. I'm not normally an early Christmas lights person, but I became a mom recently. I don't know, maybe that's the reason, but my house has Christmas lights. But around the holidays, we have a lot going on around here. One of the things going on is our kettlebell ringing. How many of you have done that before? We have some kettlebell ringers, amazing. So every year we partner with the Salvation Army to ring the bell at our local Walmart that's just up the street. You can find all of the information about the kettlebell ringing on the app online or outside in the atrium. You can sign up, get more information. We also have our food drive going on. Next week is our last week with the food drive. So that goes to help feed people out in the community. If you have questions or want to get a paper bag with information about that, that'll be out in the atrium as well. So that's all that I have for you. Ryan's going to come up, potentially. There he is. Hi, Ryan.
Everything, I was on the left. I was on the right in rehearsal.
You did. I went looking for you.
I messed you up.
Yes,
that's good. Give Brooke a great big hand, everybody. Thank you. Well, it's nice to see you this morning. This is the time of year where I just get cold all the time. So if my stocking hat bothers you, deal with it. Because I'm bald as can be. So good to see everyone. Hey, if you're a guest today, if you're tuning in online for the first time, maybe you're up with our proud peacemakers in the living room, out in the atrium. Thank you so much for being a part of things here today. We are wrapping up a series called Hope is Here. And I don't know if I mentioned it. My name's Ryan. I'm the lead pastor here. Inside your program is my cell phone number. If you're a guest, if you're new, if you have a question, if we've never had it before, let's get together, have some coffee, have some whiskey, whichever. I'd prefer the whiskey, but if you are a coffee person, we could do coffee, whichever. But let's get together. I'd love to hear your story, how you connected, found Crossroads. We can talk about any questions you might have. I probably won't be able to answer them, but I can do a pretty good job of deflecting, whatever it might be. But it would be really nice to meet you and hear your story. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if you've been able to have coffee or whiskey, you've sent me a text message and I've actually responded. Raise your hand up nice and high. So if you're a guest, you can look around and see it's not a lie. I mean, I lie about a lot of stuff, but not that. I tell you the truth there. So we're wrapping up a series today called Hope is Here, and we launched this series 8 weeks ago. For a lot of us, that feels like a lifetime ago. A lot has happened in 8 weeks. And the goal of this series was for you to get to this day And to be able to answer this question, are you in? Is this your place? Are you Crossroads? Is this a place where you feel like you can commit your time and your talent and your treasure, and you can become a better person and you can make the world a better place, and you have confidence in that? As we launch into our annual ministry celebration today after the service, that's the question, are you in? And so we started way back when in week 1, and we said that the enemy of connection is confusion. And that confusion comes and tears us apart, but clarity can bring us together. And that's what this series is about. It's about clarity about who is Crossroads Church. What are we all about? What is our vision and what are our values? And we said this at the very beginning, that this series is not about understanding what makes us right, but what makes us unique. And that's important. That's an important distinguishing. And then in the second week, we talked about how we connect through a shared vision. And that the real vision of our church, the mission of our church, is to invite and equip and encourage the spiritually disconnected, the dissatisfied, the deconstructing, and the people who love them. And to help them and to encourage them and to inspire them to follow the peacemaking path of Jesus in their everyday normal lives. And we said that's what we're all about. And in week 3, we talked about what is the grounding of our theology? How do we study the divine here? How do we think about it? And we said 2 things, a little pop quiz for you, group participation. Do you remember the 2 grounding things of our theology? They both start with the letter P. Can anybody remember at least one of them? Pietism, that's good. The other one should be really easy. We are everyday normal. Yeah, peacemaking. Okay, thank you. Holy cow, wow. Simon, I have failed. I mean, I don't know how many times in the last 5 years I've said peacemaker, peacemaking, peace, and I couldn't even get it out of a tattoo somewhere. Oh my gosh. Okay, peacemaking and pietism. And then week 4, we talked about this idea that we're faced with a choice in life, that we can live for ourselves or we can live for others. And both are exhausting. But our tradition invites us to live for something else. And the metaphor is to live for Christ. And we explored that meant that we live for one another's burdens. We carry each other's burdens. And that's a different path. And we said we actually connect through sharing our burdens together. And then in week 5, we took a little shift and we started to talk about our values, the things that guide the way we do things here. And that week, we talked for about 8 hours on generosity, because that's the one we have to convince ourselves of the most, right? And we said we are a generous community. And then the next week was the shortest week of them all, because we said we're a fun community. And that was really easy to convince you that fun is a good thing, right? And then the following week, we talked about being a creative community and sharing our gifts and talents with one another. And then last week, Dr. Aisha Thomas shared with us that we're a wise community, that we value wisdom over rules, right? And that was a beautiful talk. I hope you're able to hear that. And today we're going to wrap it all up, and we're going to spend a few minutes at a very important moment in our history talking about probably what is, I think, our most valuable value. What is our most important value right now? What is probably the greatest burden in my own heart as a pastor right now? And that is this value of inclusion. You know, we're at a historical moment in time where I don't think we can talk about it enough. And so today is going to be a day. I just want you to know, I basically cried through the whole rehearsal. And I basically begged that we would experience God today. And I know that there are many, many in here today who come with heavy, heavy hearts. And so today we're going to talk very real about this value of inclusion, why it's important. And I want to prepare you for that. And to do that, I want to prepare our hearts. We're going to sing a song together. And this song says, "The kingdom is yours." And it really is kind of in song, in art, the heart of our church. And this idea of the kingdom of God, if you're new to church language, it's kind of weird. First of all, kingdom is kind of patriarchal, and sometimes you might hear people say the reign of God now, but Jesus called it the kingdom of God, and your Bible translation will still say the word kingdom, most of them, but this idea of the reign of God. And this song says, "The kingdom is yours," and it talks about those who are suffering and those who are brave enough to hold their pain. And And the word kingdom is a metaphor, okay? It's a metaphor for the very presence of the divine, for where love is. So we're going to sing this song together. And maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. But it just says the kingdom is yours. I want to invite you to stand if you're able to today. And I'm going to do something weird. How many of y'all are shocked? First of all, you should know this about me. I don't like to be touched. How many of you are like me? I just don't really like to be touched. Not a touchy-feely kind of person. But here's what we're gonna do, because I really felt this in my spirit today, and this is gonna seem weird, and I don't. It's just gonna be weird, but I think I should do it. My wife volunteers with a group called Free Mom Hugs, and every now and then, she drags me to give free dad hugs, and it's truly dragging, and I try to put on but it's hugging strangers, and it's yeah. But it's a beautiful thing, and sometimes you just need a hug. And I think that there might be some of us in the room today that you just feel like you maybe need a hug. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give free pastor hugs today. I'm gonna stand right here during this song. And if the last couple of weeks have been especially difficult for you, for whatever reason, and you just feel like you could use a hug, I'll be right here. And but I'm telling you, these are probably gonna be popular. So don't wait until the last verse. Because while I don't like it, I am a good hugger, okay? Ask around, all right? So just muster up the courage, but I'll be here. And if nobody comes and gets a hug, I'll just feel useless and unwanted, and that's fine too. No, it's okay. But as we sing this song, if you've had a rough week, I don't have words. Sometimes they're just things that words don't fit, but maybe you just need a hug that represents God in some way, represents love and community. So let's sing this together. If you want a free pastor hug, I'll be right down here.
Blessed are the ones who do not bury all the broken pieces of their heart. Blessed are the tears of all the weary, pouring like a sky of fallen stars. Blessed are the wounded ones and mourning, brave enough to show the Lord their scars. Blessed are the hurts that are not hidden, open to the healing touch of God. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Blessed are the ones who walk in kindness, even in the face of great abuse. Blessed are the deeds that go unnoticed, serving with unbounded gratitude. Blessed are the ones who fight for justice, suffer violence and still have strength to love their enemies. And blessed is the faith of those who persevere. Though they fall, they never know defeat. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Sing that one more time. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him.
Just close your eyes with me for a moment. Let's just breathe a little bit. Be in this moment. Gracious one, we come into this mystery that we call God and love and community, and we bring our hopes and we bring our fears and we bring our pasts and our futures and our pain. We bring our tears. I thank you that our sacred scripture says this beautiful metaphor that you capture our tears. That our tears are precious and sacred and healing. And when we feel like that it might be the end of us, and we feel the weight of fear around us and in us, would your peace guard our hearts and our minds? And would we be people of peace and love? Would our eyes and our ears be opened to you, to this path of peace? For those that are right on the edge, that just feel like giving up, may they find strength in waiting in these moments together, to just hold on a little more, that this isn't the end. Can we just lift our voices and sing that one more time? The kingdom is yours, as just our prayer, our reminder. Is yours The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your
Hold on a little more.
Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Amen. Amen. You go and have a seat. You know, the truth is, I come into this week with a pretty heavy spirit. Just lots of stuff swirling around in our world as a community, in my own world privately. There's a heaviness, a weight. One of the things that bears heavy on my spirit these days is this continual discourse of othering that just continues to press in. That our identity is somehow found in differentiating ourselves, that our identity as humans, our identity as Americans, our identity as immigrants, our identity as queer people, our identity as parents, whatever it is, there's something called a discourse of othering, where differentiation is the mode in which we find and create our identity. It's been part of the Christian tradition since the church fathers established an identity of Christianity over and against what they would eventually label as heresy and the exclusion of people that didn't quite believe exactly as they believed. And then it carries into the Protestant Reformation, and it's just part of our tradition. We're really good at othering. And this discourse of othering, this differentiation that we participate in our society, it relies on the rhetoric of power, it relies on the rhetoric of fear, and it relies on the rhetoric of dehumanization. It relies on calling people and cultures garbage. It relies on hyperbole and exaggeration. And in any collective, when the dominant collective identity is threatened, what has become comfortable for the dominant group, when that identity gets threatened, when there's a shift that happens in a cultural collective, the tactic is to rally the troops through othering. The tactic is to present others not simply as outside or not simply as different, but as dangerous and nearly inhuman. And we can look through history and we can see some of the worst atrocities that have ever taken place, the worst genocides that have ever taken place. And at the heart of it is language of dehumanization and othering. Are you ready for this next statement? White Christian nationalism has a PhD in othering. It is a movement that has infiltrated and filtered into the Christian tradition, that is grounded in this idea, in racist ideas. It's grounded in ideas of elitism, exceptionalism. John Blake, who's an analyst who writes for a couple of different outlets, he said this. He said, it's been called imposter Christianity, a heretical faith that sanctifies lies and the most serious threat to democracy in America. He says that's how critics have described white Christian nationalism. He says it's a deviant strain of religion that has infected the political mainstream. He says white Christian nationalists believe the U.S. was founded as a Christian nation, although the Constitution never mentions God and enshrines the separation of church and state. Its adherents twist biblical language to justify violence, sexism, and hostility towards people of color. Professor Philip Gorski, he teaches, he's a professor at Yale, a scholar. He wrote a piece in 2021 titled White Christian Nationalism, the Deep Story Behind the Capitol Insurrection. And he talks about how that day it looked like there was this kind of motley crew of protesters. And I'm quoting him, he says, you saw all these different people in the images that you saw. There was country club Republicans, well-dressed social conservatives, white evangelicals in Jesus caps, shoulder to shoulder with QAnon cultists, Second Amendment cosplay commandos, and hardcore other folks just in their Auschwitz hoodies. All collected in this space. And he says, it seems like, and it felt like it was this very weird assemblage, but he says, as you take a closer look, the murkier things would become. And he said, there were Christians there that were waving political flags, Trump flags, and there were Proud Boys that knelt and prayed that day. He said one man decked out as this cosplay crusader clutched a leather Bible to his chest with skeleton gloves. And what looked like apples and oranges, he writes, turned out to be a fruit cocktail that would become really known and that would spark and give a picture of what exactly white Christian nationalism is. So I think the reality is in the heart of many in our tradition, many in the Christian tradition, the difficult peacemaking path of Jesus, a brown-skinned Jewish peasant, undocumented immigrant who did not have citizenship, who did not have any money, who did not have a political voice, who never wrote a book, who in all likelihood couldn't read, that this Jesus who condemned violence, that this Jesus who taught love of enemy, who welcomed the sinners, as they were called in his day by the elite, who was falsely accused and executed by the state, that Jesus has been rejected. That Jesus doesn't exist in so many of our circles because that Jesus has been replaced, and that peacemaking path has been replaced by the intoxicating path of American exceptionalism, partisan political power, and financial wealth. All those things, American exceptionalism, partisan political power, financial wealth, all of these things flourish and grow in a garden that is fertilized with fear of the other. It is the accelerant. And you say, well, how does that happen? Like, maybe some of you are sitting here going, well, why? Right? I mean, we don't have enough time. I'm trying not to take a lot of time today because we got a celebration, a meeting, but how that happens, there's a couple of things that I think are really interesting, that are real basic, that has allowed this kind of transformation of Jesus and this othering to take place within this tradition that I've grown up in, that I think offers a beautiful way of engaging with the divine. But today I just want to focus on a couple of things that I think have promoted exclusion. I think white Christian nationalism, religion oftentimes in general, will mistake the idea of invitation for inclusion. By the way, you have no talk notes today because I've had one tough week. Let's put it that way. So sorry, you have a blank talk notes, so you can write down anything you find of interest and we can chat about it later. But I think what happens is in religion oftentimes, in communities of faith, certainly amongst white Christian nationalist rhetoric, we mistake invitation for inclusion. We think that because someone is invited, they're included. How many of you have ever been invited somewhere and sat there and felt like, whoa, I do not belong? Yeah. It happens in churches all over our community, all over our nation, all over the world. The other thing that we do is we mistake, oftentimes in religion, certainly within white Christian nationalism, we'll mistake welcoming for inclusion. Like, because we walk into a space that we've been invited to, and because maybe that space feels like, oh, you haven't always been, but now you're welcomed into that space and you're treated with a measure of dignity, a measure of respect, up to a certain point, we think that's inclusion, but that's just welcoming. Now, invitation and welcome, it's courteous, I'll give you that. It's a measure of kindness, it's politeness, but it isn't inclusion. It's just not inclusion. See, a person isn't included simply because they're present in the room. And some of you who've been marginalized, who are sitting in this room, you're not even sure here if you're fully included. Because your life, you've embodied it, you've experienced it, your heart has raced at it. Like you know it more than anyone. That just being present or welcomed into a space does not mean that you have been included. Because here's the thing, inclusion is what I will call divine amplification. See, inclusion is not invitation. Inclusion is not welcome. Inclusion is the amplification of voices and experiences and wisdom and bodies of marginalized people. It is the amplification of it. It's not simply the presence of it. It is taking that voice, that body, that experience, that wisdom, that way of seeing that has been suppressed, that has been decentered, that has been pushed to the margins, and is saying, whoa, we're gonna back off some stuff and we're gonna bring it in and we're going to elevate that. And we're going to give it a space of honor because it's been so pushed and it's been so silenced. That's inclusion. That's the Jesus way of responding to otherness. It's not to say, well, I've saved a seat at the table for you. It's to say, no, we've saved 18 seats at the table for you, and we want to hear, and we want to be led by you, and we want to understand you. And that's what Jesus did. Like Jesus, how did he respond to those who othered in his culture? Here's the thing. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of things, and I'm going to give you some passages that you can look up on your own. But today I'm not going to read through them one by one. Okay, we're not going to go verse by verse today. If you're here today and you're like, he didn't read a Bible verse today, you are correct. I didn't. It will be here next week, I promise. But I want to show you this. It's just there. What did Jesus do with the others of his day? Well, some of the others of his day were what were called tax collectors and sinners and Samaritans. They were categories of people that didn't meet the standards of the religious leaders of the day. They didn't meet the standards of the economy of the day. They didn't meet the standards of the culture of the day. And so we have a beautiful story. Jesus encounters a man named Zacchaeus, who's a tax collector, who can't see, and he climbs up into a tree. And Jesus chose to identify and elevate Zacchaeus. He pointed him out and he said, out of all the people here, Zacchaeus, I have to have dinner with you at your house. We're talking about one of the most socially unacceptable things you could ever do as a Jew was to go have dinner with a tax collector. And Jesus didn't do it quietly. He shouted it out. Zacchaeus, get down from the tree. I'm going to give you the best view possible because I want to have the best view possible, because blessed are those who hunger and thirst for me. So we're going to go share a meal together. We're going to go share a meal together. And that's what Jesus did with the one who was othered, who people were probably glad Zacchaeus was up in the tree. That's where you belong, Zacchaeus, up in the tree. Women and Samaritans were marginalized. Someone was like, yes. Come on now. What did Jesus do? How did he respond? Well, we have this beautiful story in John of the Samaritan woman at the well that Jesus encounters, and he goes right up to her and he speaks to her and he gives her dignity and honor, and he says, I know all about your life. Yeah, I get it. But I'm going to entrust with you the truth of who I am, and I'm going to send you out as the first evangelist into your community, and you're going to go out and tell everybody about me. The despised Samaritan. The half-breed, the people who couldn't worship correctly. Jesus says, oh my gosh, listen, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you worship on that mountain. Doesn't matter if you worship in this mountain. Worship in your heart is spirit and truth. God will be found in that intimacy. God will be found in that intention. And our Christian tradition has missed that because we've been drunk on power and elitism and exceptionalism, that our way is the only way and you have to do it. And Jesus is like, go worship on that mountain. God's just too big. Absolutely, just worship in spirit and truth. You will encounter. It'll be revealed to you. He spoke with her with dignity. And the disciples were like, well, I wonder what Jesus is doing with her. He didn't care. He didn't care what anybody thought about his encounter, his embrace of, his elevation of the other. He treats her with dignity and grace and kindness. The sick were marginalized. Not that we do that today. Those with disabilities, those that find themselves with chronic illness, we don't marginalize them. We make life super easy for them in our world. If you're here today and you would identify with that and you would say, oh yeah, it's tough. Our world is disabling. Stairs are disabling, by the way. Right? I mean, it's just a different perspective, a different way of seeing the world. But what does Jesus do when he encounters the sick? We have this beautiful story of this blind man who was begging, and his name was Bartimaeus. And he was hollering on the side of the road, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And what was everybody around him doing? Shut it down. Shut it down, Bartimaeus. You're a sinner. You're receiving your reward. That was the silencing, was you deserve it. You've done something wrong. The dominant theology of the day said you're blind because of your sin or your parents' sin. You're impure. Jesus says, oh, bring him here. Come on, bring him here. Come here. He says, well, what can I do for you? I imagine Bartimaeus was like, seriously, Jesus? This is not starting off, well, what do you think I want you to do for me? Let's have lunch. I'd like to see, is what he says. Jesus says, your faith has healed you. Go. There's a healing that takes place in this story, a bringing of Bartimaeus back into community. He doesn't just kind of say a whisper. No, he puts Bartimaeus in the center. He decenters power, decenters the voices that would silence Bartimaeus, and brings Bartimaeus' voice closer. He elevates it. That's how Jesus responded. The poor. Again, these are things that I know it's hard for us to relate to. We really don't exclude the poor. Like, we really don't think about economics when we vote anymore. These are, I know, you're going to have to really suspend some things to try and enter into this world of antiquity that's so very foreign, where poor people are marginalized. I hope you're picking up my extremely sarcastic. What does Jesus do with the poor? What does he do? Well, he says, look, there's this woman. And I don't know what happened to the back screen, by the way, but we just lost everything. He looks at, and if somebody wants to hand me my phone, Tim, that's in the back, it's in my backpack there, just in case we can't get my notes up, because I'll ramble on about this topic forever. Oh, I can look at it right here. Look at that. The poor widow's offering. What does Jesus do, right? He looks and sees this woman who comes and says, all I have are these 2 little pennies. And everybody's kind of looking at her, and she's probably embarrassed. And people are thinking, oh my gosh, what are they actually giving her this for? Why does it matter, you know? But Jesus says, I tell you what, she has given more than anybody else because she gives out of her lack. She gives out of her lack. This is Jesus, who says, hey, those that have been othered, those that have been pushed to the margins, those that have been set outside, he says, nope, thank you, Casey. He says, nope, we're gonna showcase them. We're gonna make them models for what true devotion looks like. The Roman centurion, I mean, we could go on and on and on. The Roman centurion comes, he has a servant, and who's sick, and he's coming to Jesus, says, will you come? And I'm just sick, and I don't know what to do. And Jesus says, let's go. And the guy says, no, you don't need to go. I'm not worthy for you to come to my house. Just say the word. I have 100 under my care, and I speak and they move. You just say the word. And Jesus says what? To this Roman centurion, I'm telling you, nobody liked a Roman centurion in Jerusalem at this time. Not a popular gig. And Jesus looks at him and says, I've never seen faith like this in all of Israel. Not all of Israel. I'm telling you, this Roman centurion, we want to romanticize, oh, he must have been like a convert to Judaism. Highly unlikely. He's just a Roman citizen that knows that Jesus has power. In all of Israel. You know who Jesus was talking, all of Israel is who Jesus was talking about. Right? I mean, basically Jesus said, this dude's faith, like, makes you all. See, Jesus amplified and included the voices and the stories that the dominant culture pushed to the margins. And the dominant culture arrested him, tortured him, and crucified him for threatening the identity politics of those in power. Now, if you can strip your mind of all of the beautiful meaning making that has taken place over the death of this first century Jewish peasant, all the meaning making, all the language that Paul throws in to make sense of tragedy, all the language, but if you just distill it down, what happened, historically speaking, that's what happened. The identity politics of power were threatened, and Jesus needed to be shut down. His vision for including the ones that power excluded, that power needed to be the other so that they could find their identity. See, if you're going to be pure, you have to have an impure. They can't exist outside of one another. These words don't make any sense if you don't have the other. Some of you are just like, I see it in your eyes. Like you cannot have purity without impurity. You cannot have orthodoxy without heresy. You need both to survive. See, these are identities that are formed through differentiation and through exclusion. And until we establish a Jesus view of things, right? Where Jesus is like, that mountain, this mountain, whatever. You give everything, you give little, whatever. Right? That mentality that says we're living in love and grace. We've been clouded with a lie. And that freedom to embrace everyone and to let those categories of purity and impurity and sacred and profane, which is very difficult because our whole world is based upon these things, but to try and live in a salvation above that. We're doomed. We're destined. And we will fall into it. No matter how hard you try. I mean, it's all throughout the pages of our texts, of our sacred texts. And it's not just, I know some of you are like, oh, that's Old Testament. In the New Testament, everything's perfect. Ha! Like, read the book of Titus. In this little letter called Titus, in chapter 1, there's the most racist thing about Cretans that the writer of Titus draws into. And he just calls they're like Cretans who are godless and immoral. And it's completely racist, and it's right there. Like, we're not off the hook because we follow Jesus. We're not off the hook because we read the Bible. We have the hard work of identifying the othering even within our tradition and saying, that's not Jesus. That's not the ultimate ideal, but it is a reflection of who we are, and we have a tendency to do that. So how do we live this as a church? How do we live this inclusion, this amplification? So here's the thing. I want to say right now that we as a church, as a community of people, have to commit to amplifying people who are marginalized by racist, sexist, and homophobic religious and political rhetoric and policies. If we're going to follow Jesus, we have to do that. We have to elevate the voices. And so we have Proud Peacemakers, which is a safe space for the queer community to come and process trauma together. And please don't come to me and say, well, how come I don't have a group? How come I don't have, why is everything about that? And that's what happens. Because voices that have been oppressed and marginalized and erased have to be elevated. We have to elevate them so that we can be transformed by it. There is a salvation that only comes when we stare at that with which we have crucified. And that's the only way we're transformed. If we take things literally, we will never be transformed into love. But if we are willing to humble ourselves and kneel at the cross of the people and the places that we have crucified and continue to crucify, and we gaze and we look, we will find Christ and we will be transformed. And it's not popular right now. It's not popular in our tradition right now. I don't know if you've noticed, there's a few less people here than there were when I got here. John, as a leader of Crossroads, experienced the exact same pain, from standing in a space of inclusion as a church. This church knows and has paid the price in some ways, but has also experienced the beauty of it. Do you know, this is Lindsay. No, this is not Lindsay. This is MJ. Lindsay was here. Lindsay was here earlier, right? They swapped on me. I had a bad peripheral vision today. This is MJ. Do you know when we centered our interpreters, people left? Because it was too distracting. You know why we centered the interpreters? Because we asked the deaf and hard of hearing community where they wanted the interpreter. And we thought that's maybe a good idea. Maybe a good idea that if you are deaf or hard of hearing, you should be able to sit wherever you want to, just like everybody else. But what happened? The collective identity of the dominant experience is challenged, it's new, it's different. So what we have to do is we have to continue to do this. We need women's voices on our stage teaching, queer voices teaching, offering wisdom in their experience, BIPOC voices, voices of people with disabilities. We need all of these things. And so Crossroads will not be silent, and Crossroads has never been silent. Will not be silent towards, and we will not make excuses for the dehumanizing, racist, sexist, homophobic rhetoric found in American politics and in American Christianity. We will not be silent. We will take up our cross and follow Jesus by loving our enemies, by praying for those who persecute us and abandon us. And we will return hatred with forgiveness, because that is the difficult, hard path of Jesus. And whatever the cost, no matter the cost, we have to keep fixated on that. The truth is, and you're going to hear about this, we're at a very pivotal moment in the life of our church, where our continued living into these values has put us in a space that says, we might not be in this building in 2 years from now. And I'm so proud that we have a leadership that says, that would be a bummer, but that's not why we're here. We're here to offer the peacemaking path of Jesus to those that are marginalized, just like Jesus did. And that's the beauty of what this place has been for 25, 30 years. And we live in a cultural moment where it is even less popular than it was 20 years ago. And here's the thing. When we do this, when we center those voices, when we elevate those voices, true inclusion, the amplification of the marginalized voices that Jesus modeled, the way to do that, sets a table. Listen, it sets a table for those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, and they will be satisfied. Can I share with you, without tears, to hunger and thirst for righteousness is not a moral endeavor. To hunger and thirst for righteousness is not to say, I don't want to look at porn anymore. To hunger and thirst for righteousness is not to say, I don't want to cuss anymore. To hunger and thirst for, that's not what hunger, I'm not saying those things, that might not be something you want to cuss less and look at porn less. Okay, but that's not what hunger, to hunger and thirst for righteousness, the word righteousness means justice. And that fits the, blessed are the poor, blessed are those who mourn. But what is the common denominator? Marginalization, pain that happens, the mourning of loss, the poverty that you experience. You hunger and thirst for someone, for some place to honor you as whole, regardless of your ability or disability, regardless of your documentation, regardless of what this world wants to differentiate and other. That is the person who hungers and thirsts for righteousness. And there are not enough tables being set in churches today. There's just not. But when we do it, we set the table. And there's a great feast. And when the table is set, the brokenhearted and the marginalized and the poor in spirit, here's what's going to happen. It's so selfish of us to do it. Because when we set that table, you know what happens? Those of us who are dead in our sin will be resurrected and our bones will no longer be dry. And our faith will come alive. And it will no longer be about me. It will no longer be about my privilege. But it will be about the people Jesus was about. And I'm transformed in that. That's how resurrection works. When I am in the presence of the crucified one, I am transformed. That's the beauty of this tradition. And in that moment, we understand hope is here because the marginalized are here, because the brokenhearted are here, because the poor are here. The grieving ones are here. And they are here replacing our heart of stone with a heart of flesh. That's inclusion. We're going to have communion together now. Our team has prepared a music video for you during communion. So if you're in seats anywhere, I want to invite you to stand to make it a little easier for folks as they might want to slip out. You don't have to have communion. Everybody's welcome, obviously, at communion. It's not obvious, I shouldn't say that. Here, everyone is welcome at the table. These are symbols of divine love and grace and mercy and hope. And they remind us that it's love and forgiveness that empowers and heals the world. And so it fuels us, it nourishes our bodies. And so while this video is playing, I want to invite you to come and receive communion. We're going to sing another song today together as we embrace this value that is so urgently needed. And as we embrace the suffering that will come with it, as we relieve suffering, and we will celebrate the healing that takes place through the ministry of our church, of our own lives, and of the lives who are marginalized, and we will celebrate that regardless of the address. And we will celebrate that regardless of the day or the medium, because the mission is peacemaking. The mission and the vision is to create and encourage and equip and offer opportunities and invite people into this beautiful peacemaking path of Jesus that transforms us, transforms others. It makes the world a better, more inclusive place. The body of Christ broken for you, the blood of Christ shed for you. Would you stand with me, please? And check out this video as you have communion and consider inclusion.
When you're not sure who you really are, when all you feel is the shape of your scars, and you have more wounds than you can count, open your eyes, look all around. You aren't alone, this is your home. Come and remember who you are here. Do this to remember who I am. Come and remember you belong here. All belong here. When you don't know how to forgive, when locked doors seem like the only way to live, and you've got more questions than you can count, open your eyes, look all around. You are alone, this is your home. Come and remember who you are here. Do this to remember who I am. Come and remember you belong here. All belong here. At this table, making this great. Come and remember who you are here. Do this to remember who I am. Come and remember you belong here. All belong here.
Let's pray together. Lord, spirit of inclusion and love and mercy, and help us to honor these moments as spaces where we can feel safe and connected and empowered. But God, help us not to stay here. Help us to be empowered to walk out of this space into our everyday normal lives and to live as peacemakers, not with hostility, not with anger, but with grace and dignity and beauty and curiosity. May we open our hearts, and may your Spirit convict us and show us where we ourselves find our identity in differentiation. And may we just honor that. Not push it aside too quickly, but just let it sit there. And may we find ourselves in spaces with the other, with the marginalized, so that we might be transformed and resurrected to new life in you. So as we sing this final song, God, may the words set in our heart that it would be really easy to just stay here, but you've called us into something deeper. You've called us into something higher. Amen.
I could just sit and wait for all your goodness, hope to feel your presence. I could just stay right where I am and hope to feel you, hope to feel something again. I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. I could be safe, oh, I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You'll lead me. I could hold on, I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. I could be safe, oh, I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have You lead me, Lord.
It's good. It's good. Go and have a seat. We're going to get you out of here in just a moment. This is Lindsay. I'm just glad, MJ, that I remembered. Like I blank out on names when I'm up here. Like I looked over, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna mess this up, right? Okay, we're gonna get you out of here in just a moment. We're going to call a room host forward. We're going to collect those Connect cards and your donations for today. You can use that giving envelope. It's a safe way to make a donation. Thank you very much. If you're more of a digital giver, we have lots of ways to give around here, and those are up on the screen, and they're in the program and in the app and on the. It's not on the website, I don't think. But yeah. All right. So here they come on forward to receive those.
To me, we gotta make some room for each other. Let my enemy be my family. Fill my cup till it's running over. There's an empty seat waiting next to me. We gotta make some room for each other. Let my enemy be my family. Fill my cup till a house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all souls come together. Show me the in all things. God is able. Love has a bigger table.
All right. So, in just a minute, we're going to come back in here. Everybody's welcome. Whether you're an official card-carrying member or not, you're welcome to stick around. I would encourage you to. You'll learn more about some of the things and where we're going and stuff that's happening. So, if you are a member, though, check in at the table and grab your ballots. We have a couple of things that we're voting on today that are really crucial. If you have been meaning to become a member, but you haven't, it's not too late. That's how we roll around here, because member is differentiation, and we have to do our best to not do that, but we have to follow the law. So here's the deal. Like, if you want to be a member, just go to the table. You've been wanting to do that. You forgot to check the box. We'll get you in that membership. We've got some snacks out at the after party, AKA meet and mingle, the after party. So grab a snack, bring it back in. We're going to be together for a little bit because there might be some questions, so do that. If you have kids in the Adventure Center, please go get them, okay? Unless you want them unsupervised, that's fine. But go grab your kids, come on back in here, and we'll get started here in about 10 minutes or so. All right? Thank you. Oh, we got our blessing. I'm not going to want to leave you without a blessing. If you're a guest here, we do a blessing every week. You're welcome to open your arms up to receive this into the very core of your being. May the Spirit of love guide us as we daily carry the cross of inclusion, amplifying the voices of those the world has silenced. And may we be people who set the table for those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, knowing that in doing so, we welcome the very presence of the divine. And may we live out the truth that all belong here, reflecting the boundless grace of the one who calls us to love without fear or condition. And may we find strength and courage in the promise that hope is here in every act of kindness, every word of justice, and every step taken toward a world where inclusion is amplification and love makes room for everyone. Amen. We'll see you in just a few minutes.